Good afternoon, everyone. Michael Sinatra. I'm the director of the Research Center on Digital Humanities based at Université de Montréal that is co-organizing with McGill University and the McGill Library today, and our colleagues at Guelph and Ottawa, the first of a three-part series on digital infrastructure. And it's my great pleasure to invite my colleague Cecily Rayner from McGill to introduce our speaker, Laura Mandell, today.
Thank you so much. I feel odd speaking to virtual folks, but I'm happy to do so. My name is Cecily Rayner, and I'm an assistant professor of Hispanic Studies and Digital Humanities here at McGill. It's with great pleasure that we welcome Laura Mandell to McGill. Laura is the director of the Initiative for Digital Humanities, Media, and Culture at Texas A&M University. She's the author of Misogynist Economies, the Business of Literature in 18th Century Britain from 1999, a Longman Cultural Edition of the Castle of Otranto and A Man of Feeling, and numerous articles primarily about 18th century women writers. Her recent article in New Literary History, What is the Matter? What Literary History Neither Hears Nor Sees, describes how digital work can be used to conduct research into conceptions informing the writing and printing of 18th century poetry. She is editor of the Poetess Archive, an online scholarly edition and database of women poets from 1750 to 1900, pardon me, and director of ARC, the Advanced Research Consortium overseeing NINES, 18th Connect, and MESA MESA. Her current research involves developing new methods for visualizing poetry, developing software that will allow all scholars to deep code documents for data mining, and improving OCR software for early modern and 18th century texts via high performance and cluster computing. The title of her talk today is BigDIVA, Nourishing and Sustaining a Scholarly Infrastructure Built from the Ground Up. Welcome, Laura.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Hello. So yes, I'm going to talk about BigDIVA. BigDIVA is a visualization tool, an interface, not itself an infrastructure, that displays content from what's called the ARC catalog. But to understand it, you're going to need to know what ARC is and what the ARC catalog is before I show you BigDIVA. So ARC is the Advanced Research Consortium, and it is an overarching organization for a host of scholarly communities and online finding aids that are period specific. And I'll just run through them now, but I'll talk about them more in a minute. The first is NINES, 19th Century Scholarship Online, 18th Connect, MESA for Medieval, ModNets for Modernist, and Studies in Radicalism Online. Then forthcoming, we are going to have the Early Modern Print organization that will cover the Renaissance, Networked Early American Resources. I can never remember what NEAR stands for, I apologize. And Quirk is going to set up an ARC node, your very own Quirk. So the Advanced Research Consortium is the overarching organization that supports these scholarly communities. What we do is we host a Solr server that indexes all the metadata that feeds into these communities. We host their interfaces, and I'll show you, they're all built in Colex, so they all look a little bit the same. But the interesting thing about Colex, it was commissioned to be built by Bethany Novisky, and it's the origin of Blacklight. It was the original Blacklight, but they forked. We provide contract negotiation and support. I'll say more about that in a minute. We ingest metadata, and we work on sustainability efforts for the group. So here's the ARC infrastructure. We've got a Solr server with a Lucene search engine, which allows for faceted searching. We have our Colex, which is a Ruby on Rails application that provides the interface. And those interfaces, those scholarly communities, just ping the Solr server. And we index the metadata that goes into the Solr server. It is RDF, Resource Description Framework, for those of you who know a little bit about such things. It is not triples yet, not linked open data yet. They are flat RDF XML files, but we're working with Guelph to try to turn them into actual triples. So here's what the Colex interface looks like. You can see it's the same for all of the scholarly communities, roughly. They can switch things out, choose the tabs they want and such, but it's basically the same interface. This is the one that's coming soon. It's the American Antiquarian Society's interface for their NAPE, their catalog of resources. We're very excited to get that online soon. We were going to have a Renaissance network, but now it's going to be early modern print, so that's coming. When you're in one of these interfaces doing research as a scholar, you can search all of them. So you can search from one all of the nodes or the communities, we call them nodes. But you can also just search specifically the area that you're interested in. Now, the thing is that what these scholarly communities all do is they carefully curate the resources they want in their online finding aid to make it a complete research environment for 19th century scholars, humanists, so philosophers, historians, literary people. But we mix open access with proprietary materials. So journals, the journals have come from JSTOR and Project Muse mostly, which is predictable. And each scholarly community will say, we need this journal, this journal, this journal, and this journal. Then what ARC does is it goes with all the asks from all the communities, and with one voice, we ask JSTOR or Project Muse to give us the metadata for those materials. And they are very happy with that arrangement because then they don't have to deal with a whole number of people. We also have peer-reviewed projects, and another one of the functions of these online scholarly communities is peer-reviewing digital projects by scholars. So for years, I was director of 18th Connect. Now I'm director of ARC, and we have a new director of 18th Connect. But what happens is you send out, we created editorial boards that are as illustrious as Cambridge University Press, so that scholars will get credit for it. This was Jerome McGann's idea when he first started Nines, that there would be a brain drain among junior faculty if they couldn't get promoted and tenured for digital projects. So we send them out to these illustrious editorial boards. We get, just like a journal, the review of the resource, and we send it back and get them to do corrections and get them to work on it. Some of them took a long time because there were serious criticisms. So the Swinburne project took a year, I think, to get in. But you know, as long as you complete a good faith effort to take these comments into account, you can get your resource peer reviewed. Then the director of each of the scholarly communities writes a letter to the person who submitted it that's suitable to present to their promotion and tenure committee. And what it says in it, it says, okay, the French book trade of Enlightenment Europe, it's the equivalent of a monograph, and this is why. And that way, people will get credit and can be promoted on it. I was promoted for my Poetess to full professor for my Poetess archive database. It was peer-reviewed by Nines and has a stamp on it that says peer-reviewed by Nines. And it also was one of the first items cataloged in the MLA bibliography because it had been peer-reviewed. One of the first electronic items, not the first, sorry, first of digital. So when you go to 18th Connect, again, you can see this mix of proprietary. These are proprietary journals. We've got these peer-reviewed projects. The Occam Circle is from Dartmouth. It's an amazing resource. And we encourage them to apply for approval also from the Committee on Scholarly Editions at MLA, which after we've peer-reviewed it, it's pretty likely because we use their guidelines for it. And so you can see that there's peer-reviewed projects by scholars, and then there's other digital collections. So in 18th Connect, we're nothing without ECHO, right? 18th century collections online. So we needed that. So ARC, the overarching organization, goes and negotiates with Gale or ProQuest to get those materials. But when you're searching all of it at the same time, which is highly unusual. A lot of the proprietors now are trying to coordinate and collaborate so that they can make searching happen I know Gale and ProQuest are making search happen across Echo and EBO, but they are still confined within proprietary walls, and we've got open access materials as well. There are facets, so you can select, only those things that are freely available. You can select only those things for which we have full text. We do, in the Solar Server, index full text if it's available. We do not index dirty OCR because that makes searching really awful. So we don't do that. This is a typewrite enabled, and I'll say more about that in a moment. So our metadata. ARC is not a library, and it doesn't intend to replace any library functions. This is a community of scholars. Our metadata specifications, and you can tell if you go to this URL, just wiki.publix.org, and read principles for metadata reform, our goal is for it to be as lean as possible. So it's not a bar to scholars who don't have technical teams contributing. And we have, complete instructions how to submit RDF to us, how to submit metadata to us. But this metadata is for finding, it's for discovery, it's not for preservation. Libraries know how to do that kind of metadata. That's what they spend their lives doing, right? So we wouldn't presume to know better. We just want metadata for findability in terms that scholars use and can understand. So it changes. And we frequently change the metadata system. It's hard. We have to re-index the 2 million items in the Solar Server, but we're committed to making metadata that scholars can use. The other thing I like about this metadata system is that, as I'll show you now, so whenever we can use an authority, we do. So our format categories, that's just Dublin Core. Dublin Core type is what that is. But then we go to, our field, what we want to know. These are the disciplines to which the resource might be interesting. So James Raven is building a 3D model of printers scattered over London, and you walk through London and see all the printers. You'd find a link to that under book history, right? And then we have genre terms, and this is what we fight about most. We have meetings every year, the art committee. There are occasionally knockdown dragouts. But what I love about this is it has risen from the ground up. What happens is a community will get some resource and won't fit any of these. And then we have to rethink. And it often isn't even, you can't just add one because it changes everything, right? It's a system. So we spend a lot of time talking about that. Eventually, as I said, we would like to take our metadata into triples and expose it via a Sparkle endpoint. Currently, we have set up a Solar Server for English short title catalog, ESDC 21. They have built a new platform that they're going to release, I hope not in 2100. Just the 21st century is, I think, what they're saying. So, and 21, and it is triples. Now, the English short title catalog contains roughly 400,000 titles. That's billions of triples, because think of all the metadata categories that need to be related to each other. So we're testing performance issues on that right now as we speak. Here's the infrastructure. There's the ARC Solar Server. It feeds all of the scholarly communities. It feeds BigDIVA, which I'm going to show to you in a minute. And it also allows libraries to deploy a Colex instance for special collections. And the most successful one we have, and it's really a vibrant society, is Studies in Radicalism Online at Michigan State University. They had a collection of radicalism papers, a lot of things about Sacco and Vanzetti. They have a lot of pamphlets and journals. And so they wanted to expose their collection, but they wanted to expose it in a complete research environment where you could get articles from social text or other things that are about radicalism. So they came to us and said, can we join? And we just thought this was a brilliant idea. We're going to enable libraries to do that because they're building a community around their materials. They've pulled in things from the DPLA. They've pulled in things from all over. They're curating the materials that surround their special collection. And all of these nodes are either peer reviewing or curating. So it's a highly curated data set. Studies in Radicalism Online and the Great Lakes Aggregator, it's a collection at the University of Michigan, and so they are library collections. We're working with the English Short Title Catalog to help them, we may not host it permanently, but at least launch their ESTC 21. So when you go to each one of these scholarly communities, there's a search tab, and you can go and you can facet through all these genres and disciplines, but you can also search using a visual interface called BigDIVA. This is BigDIVA. This isn't live, unfortunately. Big Data Infrastructure Visualization Application, but I love the name. I didn't think of it. So what you can see here is the art catalog. Now the default page is the resource page, and the resource page, each of these little spheres has a name on it, and we have a guide up on the current site that tells you what that name refers to if it's shortened. But these are the contributors to the art catalog. So I will show you some more. This is the genre view. So you or your students can go search the genre view. Researchers and students. This is the discipline view, the format view. And what's really interesting is it's amazing what kind of big picture you get, especially if you're a student. And even if you're a faculty member, to be reminded of that big picture isn't so bad. If you have genres up, and you start pulling it back to the medieval period, you get to see which genres disappeared, right? What genres didn't the medieval writers have? My favorite one is if we do DC format, and I didn't get a screenshot of it, and go back to 1650, just a little before 1650, among the formats, periodical disappears, right? And of course it does, because they didn't have periodicals before that. When you put it at 1665, 5 things come up, and on the top, of course, the Philosophical Transactions of the Royal Society, which is one of the first journals. The others were French. I think the French were there first. So this is the homepage when you get here, and this box that can be closed, and you can also check it so it doesn't show up again, but it guides you in how to use the interface and tells you what you're seeing. So it's very helpful for students and for researchers. Now what's happened here is this is the Walters Museum at Baltimore, and I've selected for genre, and those are the genres that splurge out. One thing I want you to notice when you or students are searching BigDIVA, you get a sense not only of what you search for, but what you didn't search for. Because if you have a keyword in here, for instance, these nodes will be sized, these spheres will be sized according to how many resources there are. Notice that some of the resources are grayed out. This is Evo, Echo. It's because I was not logged in. My library subscribes to BigDIVA, but I was not logged in at work. If I were, that would be blue, and you could search it. But it's a good way for faculty to discover resources that they need, that they didn't know about, proprietary resources, and to go to their library acquisitions and ask for them in a really informed way. Well, you might say, I know that Adam Matthew Digital has a whole set of documents on this Native American literature thing that I'm working on. And it's good to know that. So it's not just, while you can search in all the interfaces that provide lists and, facet things, BigDIVA is a discovery tool. It allows you to find things you didn't know were there and to find things you didn't search for. So I can imagine being a student and saying, okay, I was told to look at the Walters Museum, to look at its collection of medieval literature. Oh my gosh, there's music. I didn't know there was medieval music, right? Being able to sort of discover things. This is format. And I'm showing you the node menu there. Whenever you select a sphere, a list shows up on the side, but the node menu allows you to select the facets you want to search by. And so there's genre, discipline used to be red, now it's yellow, and format. Then you can also click on individual results, and that's when all of these things come out here, and you'll see them on the side. So these are individual results of illustrations in the Walters. And when you click on one of those individual results, you get this menu, and it says click to view, and you get sent out to the resource. So these scholarly communities don't publish anything. We certainly don't take in Echo and republish it. We don't take in things. We don't even take in the Occam Circle or Little Projects or the Poetess Archive. We just take in metadata about them and point to them. And then you go to their site. So if they have other kinds of tools that you can use to search or whatever, you get there and get to see all that. So we're an aggregator, not a publisher. Here you can click on Trace Path, especially if you have a bunch of people working together on a big screen, so you can see where you went. This March, so this month, Performance Software is building for us an export function and a note function. So you can add notes, you can export your Sage searches into the formats you want, so Tarot and Note RefWorks, and you can send a comment when you're emailing it to yourself or to somebody else. So this is coming next month. I've shown it, demoed BigDIVA on the big screen many times. This is our big screen at Texas A&M. This is the Vista visualization space at the University of Rochester, and I was so proud because I was the first humanities professor to use it. I actually selected the Blake Archive, which is a peer-reviewed project. And Morris Eves works at the University of Rochester. He was ill that day, so I had one of his students take pictures of Blake on the big screen. He loved it. And tweet them. This is another big screen. This one is at North Carolina State University, and I just presented on another big screen at Concordia this morning. Now you can go to these tiny URLs, BigDIVA big screen, BigDIVA small screen, and you will see a live demo of both on the desktop or on the big screen. So one of the things that we're concerned about, of course, is students. And Helen Gorgas said, maybe it's not so recently, but in a study that, that really students tend to believe that Google ranks things according to importance or quality or value. And that's kind of distressing for us, I think. So if I told my students, if I were teaching a medieval class and I said, just go find some medieval manuscripts online. Just search for digital medieval manuscripts. The Roman de la Rose Digital Library comes up on page 5 of the Google search results. I don't know how many people go there. I was about to give up and I was looking for it. Here it is, BigDIVA. What you do is you take the time slider, you slide it all the way down to the medieval era and in 1485. And this is the Parker collection at Stanford, the Walters Museum, Diam, and Roman de la Rose, and they're right here. All the major collections, and that's because the scholarly community of medievalists that run MESA said, we must have this in our search environment. I mean, I wouldn't know, but they do. I'm going to really try to talk a little bit about infrastructure now. And Susan Brown and I are writing an article together about infrastructure, but I discovered this article of Susan's, which is absolutely brilliant. Tensions and Tenets of Socialized Scholarship, published in, it was Digital Studies in the Humanities when she published it. And in it, she talks about the kinds of tensions that are facing digital projects. And she says, interfaces are the contact zones within which these tensions will be mediated. And that's what I think our infrastructure is really about, is mediating tensions. Tensions between digital work and traditional scholarship. So I'm going to go through the 5 things she says that the tensions are and try to tease out how I think our infrastructure is addressing those tensions. So 1 is credit, 2 is stability, 3 is simplicity. Maybe I'm just going to go through 3, I'm not sure. I'm going to say start with credit. So here again is my Poetess Archive. It was early peer reviewed by Nines and so made it into the MLA bibliography because they trusted it. And it has this little widget on it that says peer reviewed by Nines. it got me promoted to full professor. I'd say that's a good outcome for credit. It had a really lovely letter from the director of Ninth, which was Jerome McGann at the time. So there it is, the little widget. 18th Connect has another way for scholars to get credit for their digital work, and it's also a way to stimulate digital work by scholars so that we get high quality digital work. What the Advanced Research Consortium did is we got 2 contracts, one with ProQuest and one with Gale, thanks to some amazing people at those companies who helped us get the contracts. We have put into 18th Connect all of EBO and ECHO, so all of early English books online, all of 18th century collections online. That's a total of about 307,000 documents. They have, Gale's ECHO has been OCR'd, but EBO had not, but we OCR'd it. And we put the dirty OCR not in our catalog. You're only searching the metadata when you search EBO and ECHO in the catalog. We built a tool called TypeWrite. What TypeWrite does is it allows you to correct the optical character recognition, the mechanical typing of these page images. John O'Brien at the University of Virginia has a class, do it every semester, and they're I think working on the female tattler, and they just want a couple articles out of it, and they're going to get that and then try to publish it in some form. Because the deal we worked out is that anybody who corrects a document in TypeWrite, an EBO or an ECHO document, gets it. Now, not the page images, because ProQuest and Gale, that's their bread and butter. But the corrected text, and we send it to them as plain text, we send it to them as TEI encoded text, and they can create a digital edition. Now, when you know where the images are at a special collections library, you can contact them and ask them to image the document for you, the book. And for a fee that they should charge, they will they will give it to you, but it would be something like $350, for a novel of page images. It's quite, at least in the 18th century, maybe more with earlier stuff. So when you're searching 18th Connect, you come to the search tab, and they all look like this. You can select TypeWrite enabled only, and you can see it's almost 307,000. We had trouble with some of them. We couldn't get the OCR good enough, but there it is. And then, TypeWrite enabled. Okay, and then you'll get all of this list of items. And usually there's a collect and a discuss button, which you have your own tabs, you can collect things. Here is an edit button. And that allows you to take that document into TypeWrite. Now, all you need is to log in. Well, what do you need to log in? You need a username, that can be fake. You need an email address, that has to be real. And all the rest is just made up. So that's all you need, and we've had no vandalism. So it's quite wonderful. So you go and you log in. Now, this is, we just show a page snippet, and that's why Gale and ProQuest were willing to do this, because you can't download the page from this. We're about to switch to a IIIF server, which will make that even easier. And so then you get to a line, and here's this line, and you just start typing in there and make corrections. You can add TEI code while you're going. You wouldn't want to add big code, but if you needed to designate italics or small caps, you don't want to go back and do that if you've already transcribed the thing. You want to do it while you're checking the typing. And so then you receive your corrected and semantically enriched document in basic TEI and plain text formats. We have some people that are doing data mining. There was a graduate student who was working on sermons, who did 100 sermons because he wanted to data mine them. You can create a digital edition and publish it online. You are allowed to, according to the contracts we have. And then the corrected text is available for full text search in 18th Connect, and we send it back to ProQuest and Gale. I want to say something about that. The early modern group is pretty angry about ProQuest, and they feel that, that faculty shouldn't be giving them anything since they're charging for it. I just have 2 things to say about it. The Text Creation Partnership, which is a library organization that supports faculty, is the only reason you can search EBO at all, because they paid people to hand type all the documents. And it's not all of them. You're searching less than half when you search full text in eBill. Many people don't know that. Second of all, they aren't making any more money if there's better OCR. They sell it or they don't, right? We have a better research experience. So we're doing this for us. So that's my argument against Freebo. There was a Freebo, free eBill. Oh, the other two are stability and simplicity, two other areas of tension. So I am not actually going to talk about stability. Well, I'll just say this. The ARC catalog is on Texas A&M servers. And I've built up, as director of a center, I've built up a number of servers, and we're just moving it to bare metal to increase the performance. We went down for 3 days at Texas A&M because somebody attacked Texas A&M servers successfully. Nines had never been down but for an hour before that, since Jerry McGann started it. So we, Tim Stinson, who's a medievalist at North Carolina State University, was able to get an internal grant and set up a mirror site. And so as soon as we get that, it's up, and as soon as we get it all worked out, whenever we go down, you'll just be sent to the other server. So there is that stability. But in terms of long-term preservation, I just want the Library of Congress to take some kind of image of the solar index. That's all I want. I just wanted to deposit it there. And I will be working on that as director of ARC. Now for simplicity, I do want to say, in creating our metadata, I had to put up these principles because we have all these metadata arguments, and we have to say, okay, you may make a suggested change, but it has to adhere to the principles. It has to be lean. It has to be a lean form because you just can't expect scholars to know how to create intense metadata records. But also, I articulate here that it's really about findability. It's about making sense to us of the materials that we want to use. So that's BigDIVA.org. I think I'm early.
Yes, you are.
Yes, that's BigDIVA.org. So maybe since I'm early, I will just do a little bit of a live demo, which is always dangerous, but let's do it. And I'll show you the Walters. Oh, here, I can show you, I think. Yeah, let's make this big screen. So here you can see what I was telling you. If you're searching format, I don't know why it's blurry. It's not blurry on my computer. But you can see I've gone back to 1665. There's the philosophical transactions right at the top. So as you go down, periodical disappears. I mean, a great classroom assignment for young students trying to get a sense of culture. What forms did they communicate through in the medieval period? Just go and slide things around, or in various periods. And then, oh yeah, so here, so this is BigDIVA, and I'll just do this little live demo. Am I still in the screen enough? Yes. All right, so I'll show timeline. And to get to, oh, come on. Oh, okay, it needs to be reset. So I will reset it. The timeline takes a long time to load, and we've had trouble with it. There are improvements we can make, and we will try to improve it this March, but it's basically because of the metadata. You tell people due dates in this form, and then they don't always. So it's trying to talk to the Solar server and saying hiccup, hiccup, hiccup. Okay, so here, if I scroll down to the medieval period, and a lot of these resources just were put into IIIF servers. I'm searching the Walters Museum now, and there's the genres. And then I will search by discipline. I gotta look on here, I look on there. There's a drag. And then I'm gonna look at manuscript studies, format. There are some codices. in the Walters. And then if I go to manuscript and look at individual results, then God speaks to Hosea. And then here again, I click to view, and there I am. Sorry. So it takes your students right to these resources. Now the Walters, most of them are surrounded by metadata. This particular page isn't, but they'll also see all the metadata. They can go to the Walters site and search some more. We've pushed you out. We're about discovering the things that are out there, not about keeping you in. So, so that is a little snippet view of BigDIVA, a little snippet view of the ARC infrastructure and how it works. And I welcome any comments and questions.
Thank you.